Welcome to the March 18th Select Board meeting.
I make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to, just regarding personnel matters pursuant to MRSA 1, Section 405(6)E.
A?
E. We're changing that.
Okay. I'm reading.
Oh, sorry.
Which is actually consultation with an attorney.
A second.
Instead of personnel issues, we'll fix
All
the
those in
motion.
favor? Okay.
Motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda. Do we have?
We do. Online, we have Heather Hunter and Katie Grant
Okay.
from RHR Smith, our auditing
Are
company.
they on Zoom or are they?
Oh, yes. I'm not sure what I said, but I did whatever it was. I
You
meant
said
Zoom.
you had them on the line. You know, so
Yeah,
that's
we have
fine.
them on Zoom. And that seems to be Heather.
Yes. Welcome. So, essentially, what we're trying to do is get some update on the 23-24 audit and issues and things like that.
Okay. I will start out with saying a lot of this is probably attributed to turnover and with learning a new software system that is unfamiliar to the new finance director, Brenda, who had taken the position. I am happy to say the initial audit started off successfully and started off on time. I think there were some issues with beginning balances and that kind of is how you start an audit to make sure, your beginning balance for the current fiscal year agrees with the prior year fiscal year. We had some trouble unraveling some of those beginning balances. We did get that straightened out. We had some issues just with unfamiliarity with how the TRIO system and items were posted to the control accounts that should have been probably posted to the budget. So I think, again, a lot of this is on the learning curve, and getting the reconciliations caught up. I think that is not unusual for any municipality that has turnover in this position. And we do have a draft report that is currently being reviewed, and we do have a best practices management letter draft that will be furnished to the finance director and the town manager, hopefully by the end of this week. So I will, at this point, I guess, open up to any specific questions you may have.
Questions?
I have a question. Were you too active with last year's, the year before's warrant, the audit? Did you work on the year before? Because we didn't seem to have any of these problems, but you said it was a new person learning the system? Is that my understanding of what you said?
Part of the issue is Brenda wasn't as familiar with TRIO, so we have a person that previously worked at that company that offers non-attest services to clients, and I know she came out to help with some of the questions that were raised, and I think that was a successful venture on both parties' parts. I was not involved with the audit last year. Katie, were you included in that?
No, I wasn't on this audit last year.
Okay.
And what was the other main one? There was the balances at the end of the year. You were saying that you had to, what process did you use to fix the balances at the end of the budget?
What we do is we compare the beginning balances, or what you're showing as beginning balances for the new year, to the published financial statements in the previous year. And any discrepancies that happen, we typically will post entries or recommend post entries, not only on our software, but also get them to the client to post, to bring those two amounts back into balance. So we know that from that point forward, we're starting at the same spot.
Am I mistaken, but were we talking about 23, 24 audit?
Yes.
So, and she's talking about Brenda not being familiar with the Trio system, but I think, is this audit before then?
It is, but the fixing of what was what Heather's now talking about are the balances at the end of that year.
Coming forward to the
Coming
beginning
forward,
2024?
needed some adjusting entries, and that's what Brenda's been working on, are those adjusting entries. And part of that was she did need to learn how to maneuver Trio to make them, and by there, I mean the auditor's fairly new employee, Brenda Kelly, had been with Trio for, oh goodness, longer than I was a clerk. So it was like 20, 25 years she was with Trio, and one of their top people, and originally one of their programmers before it was bought out by Harris. So, so she's an expert at Trio and has gotten Brenda caught up with, in Trio, how you do it. The system that Brenda used previously was Munis, which is used by most of the very large communities.
Well, another thing we heard was that once you put an entry in Trio, and it goes to the end balance, the total amount, you can't back it out. And so if that was going to be a problem, I'm kind of curious if there's a better system that you'd recommend if it's this difficult to do. We had trouble getting the actual balances, the correct balances and figures.
I'm more familiar with Tyler Technology and Munis. I know you can do adjustments, and that would enable you to correct potentially missed postings that have occurred.
But I believe you can make adjusting entries in Trio as well.
Absolutely.
And the issue was the volume of entries that needed to happen to make these adjusting the end balance be correct. That's what took so long. Brenda working on those with the auditing firm to get those in so that we could produce all of the stuff in this budget binder.
I guess the last question I have, but you don't have a real concern with the mishandling of data. It's more an educational process of a new person coming in along with a person getting done before the end of the process, before the end of the year, leaving their position.
I think that's, a fairly reasonable comment that was made. I think one issue that you had is just the sheer timing of it. One person left before all the accruals can be made. Clearly, the reconciliations were not complete, so that caused some delays. And then when you have a new person coming on board, not only, they have to learn the system, they have to learn your accounting chart of accounts, your general ledger, how you've allocated your fund system. And then once they learn that, then they have to go through and decipher which are correct entries, which need to be journalized to whether it's grossing up revenues or grossing up expenses or pulling account balances off the general fund that really belong in another fund that you use. Those all take time.
Does Budget Finance have any?
Anyone from the Budget Finance Committee have questions that they wanted to pose? Karen?
Sean McKillop, 84 Main Street. Heather, you said that was part of the problem. Is there any other issues that you can share, or is this really what the big issue is?
I think that's the crux of the problem. I think, once a full cycle is under her belt, I think she'll be able to, put together the year-end accruals, hopefully with the training that Brenda provided her on Trio. A lot of those corrections and a lot of those journal entries that we had to do this year won't need to be redone in the future.
Okay. You kind of answered it. I know that the two of you did not do the previous years, but my understanding is that everything from the previous years were pretty solid. This is just a new staffing kind of issue for this year. Everything else looked pretty solid for the last couple of years, as far as you're aware.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Good, thank you.
Heather, that's not what we've understood from Katie.
Okay, so Katie, I will turn it over to you then.
And the other thing too, this is Brenda. The other thing is that when I started, there were already beginning transactions that had taken place that were not correct, and I had to fix those as well. So I wasn't here even at year end or at the beginning of the year. So it's a little more to it than kind of what you just said.
Well, it is the beginning balances that for FY23 that started our process.
Right.
The former employee was here through the year end, and there were issues with accruals. So those are the years that that's the year I'm focusing on, that I'm familiar with. Katie, if you're familiar with things that happened prior to FY23, feel free to jump in.
I'm not quite sure what she's referring to be
Yeah,
honest.
I think you just clarified it, Heather. The beginning balances you're talking about is the beginning balance of FY23, or of 2023. That's a year before Brenda started. So last year's beginning balances had issues.
Correct.
Okay. And that's, I think, what was missing. It sounded like it was 24 going into 24, 25 was the problem. And it isn't.
No.
It's a full year before that. So the beginning balances from there and from there on needed to be corrected. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there were over 300 issues that Brenda was given to fix.
Journal entries, that probably is about right. Katie, does that sound in the realm of the estimate?
Yeah, something like
Yes.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
More like $1 million.
Yes.
Well, I think we're aware that for a little while, people are overwhelmed, and that's why the select board or the town manager decided to have a separate checking account for the enterprise account with recreation, because a lot of those things from Tasseltop and stuff are coming through town hall. And so what I would be interested in, are they 300 major issues, or are they just invoice issues that are getting there late that causes that end balance like we had this year with well, whatever year, with lack of timing on invoices, so it backs it up? I'm kind of curious what would cause that sort of thing. I guess that's what I'm looking for, is a reason for end balances to be dragged out or problems.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things happening at one time. And the first being, by the time you get your 2023 audit, you're well into the 2024 fiscal year. So if there were any carryover journal entries or things like that, those would need to be posted and, move forward into your 2024 audit. I think the other piece is understanding governmental accounting to make sure, revenues are grossed up and put into revenue accounts, and expenditures are posted to expenditure accounts. And understanding how the system control accounts truly work. Nothing should be posted to a control account directly. That's the system's ability to maintain a balancing system. So when things get posted directly to the control account, that causes a significant wrinkle in the process. And there were several journal entries that were posted there.
May I interrupt, so that I don't know what a controlling account is? Would you define that for me and for anyone that's watching?
So think of a control account. You have it for revenues, expenditures, fund balances, encumbrances. You have for your appropriation side of the house for your budget and your estimated revenues. So if you are putting in, for example, your line item budget for expenditures, and you have, I don't know, 300 accounts, line items, and that totals $250,000. You are hitting those direct accounts. The system will tally those and put the total of $250 in the control account. That's how the system balances those two. They will do the same thing for revenues. They do the same thing for both actual expenditures and actual revenues. It's a system maintenance, and Trio does it, Munis does it. I can't speak for QuickBooks, but it allows the system, and frequently you're supposed to be checking to make sure your system stays in balance. And part of that system checking and balancing is to look at those, include those control accounts.
Thank you.
To our knowledge, there were no issues other than the actual posting to the control accounts.
And again, I asked more questions probably than most, but, so if you enter it into one account and it's tied to a second that ends up balancing out your budget, because it goes to a second account, you may not be paying much attention to that. You just think you made an entry, and I'm saying, you said you have to check them, so I'm just assuming that you don't always check that you put it in A account and it goes to B to make sure it went in the right way. And when you have to do that, you now have to look at two different accounts to fix it.
Well, I'm trying to think of an example that would kind of bring this home. When you enter your password to go into a system, think about you entering the password directly into the company's security system versus into your account to access your online banking. That's what a control account does.
Okay.
So you're supposed to be doing online banking, depositing your checks directly, writing checks against it, not hitting anything with that security piece of the banking industry. That's how control accounts work.
That's a good explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Heather, just one more question for you. Talk about these control accounts. It was an issue starting in 2023, but as far as you're aware, those accounts were not an issue in previous years. I'm just trying to understand. They weren't.
I can't
wasn't
speak
there.
either way to
wasn't
that.
there.
I was not involved with that.
Other questions?
It's quite educational.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Heather.
like I said, we will be sending the management letter, and I know Brenda's working on finalizing the draft report, so you will be getting that information shortly, I'm sure.
Thank you, Heather and Katie.
All right, have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item is, we have Mr. Libby from RTP.
Is he on there?
Yes.
Yes, good evening.
Oh, yes.
How are you? In the recent days, I've had conversations with Ms. Sadak about possibly doing a micro-transit service in Raymond. And with that, we provided you guys, the select board with a proposal. And, I don't know if everybody's familiar with what microtransit is, but I can obviously explain that tonight. But it's basically an on-demand service for your residents. It would function during the day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It can be reserved via an app or telephoned in. And it's really the easiest way to explain it, it's like a discounted, funded by the town, discounted ride service that would take people to medical appointments, shopping centers, pretty much whatever they need. And it's really inexpensive. $3 a ride per person each way is what we've been charging. And then obviously the town would, subsidize the rest of it, which would total about $67,500 for the year. The nice thing about this, it provides public service. It gives you transportation that you don't have now, and it would be able to offer a convenience for people that don't drive, but also people that maybe are without a car for a day or two because it's in the shop, things of that sort. So I'm happy to answer any questions about it. The service and how it works. I don't know how much you guys have talked about this in recent days, so I'd open up to questions.
What's the range?
Well, that's determined by the town, and what I mean by that is
under that price, I mean.
Well, typically we would take them anywhere in your town for that price, but I know there was discussion of maybe opening it up to Wyndham. And then we would have a kind of 4 microtransits running in succession there between Wyndham, Standish, and Gorham. And then people would be able to take the ride into Wyndham if they need be. I don't anticipate people going from Raymond to Gorham for $3, but if that was the need that they needed to do, we would obviously do it. It's really, like I said, it's inexpensive. It's with the other services that are running in Wyndham and also in Raymond and Standish, it's kind of a win in some instances. If let's say if a rider took a ride into Wyndham, we could shift another van over to Raymond to compensate for that person going into Wyndham. So the idea is eventually we would have several of these services running up the 302 corridor to provide transit for all the small towns, the rural towns that don't have it.
So you mentioned doctor's appointments and stuff like that. You don't take them all the way into Portland. You would get them to like the busing.
Yeah, we could get them to the Lakes Region stop in Wyndham. If that was the case, yeah, we wouldn't take them all the way into Portland for $3. And the reason being is, that's really not what this service is designed to do. It's really designed to get people around. Honestly, it's shopping, it's doctor's appointments like in Wyndham, dentist appointments. What we see that people in Wyndham using it for, just for example, majority of the time is short trips that majority of these people just don't drive, or they don't drive or don't have or just don't own a vehicle, and so this supplements a lot of that.
I've been talking to Dawn a lot back and forth on this. So a question came up to me today. Hi. A question came up today. I ran into somebody and the comment was made, yeah, once they find a job, but we got to find somewhere close because they don't have a car. And I'm like, oh, we happen to be talking at the budget tonight about that. So your timing on this is 9 to 5. What if somebody had to be to work, say, at 8 o'clock, and it was consistent or whatever?
We could expand it. I think initially 9 to 5 is the way to go. It builds ridership. There's always room to expand. We are running an 8 a.m. van in the Wyndham Gorham area that goes 8 to 4, and then we have another van that's extended out 9 to 6 or 10 to 6. So. There's obviously room to expand it. I budgeted the 9 to 5 time frame based on that quote that we gave the town was based on that 8 hours a day. Now that's not to say it can't be 10 hours a day for a different price. It just really depends on how you guys want to do it. That's why I said month to month, and then if we needed to, we could tweak it, we could adjust it, and make it more flexible.
And this price is for one van or one bus?
One van,
one vehicle?
one driver, yep. And initially, you know, when I was talking to Teresa, I think we were talking about what brought it up is that there was talk of the town buying its own vans, and I said, don't do that. I mean, you know, let us help you get this thing going. And we have the vehicles, number one, we have the manpower, number two, and you know, and not to mention the vehicle's wheelchair accessible, you know, and the drivers are background checked, and we go through all the parameters to make sure that you're getting, you know, we do fingerprinted background checks, unlike some of the other transit companies out there. So you're going to get a higher level of service, more professional driver, and it's really going to be cost effective for the town. And you talk about a way for the town to advertise that they have something that nobody else has, because you're the first town that's really looking to do something like this from a town perspective, not a pilot program, not a, you know, like Wyndham's a pilot program through this through Maine DOT, right? And when that funding runs out, it runs out. And I don't know if that's going to continue in Wyndham or not, but I can tell you if other towns start doing it, other towns will look at keeping it. And eventually it works out the best when every town has these vans running, right? Because we can crisscross them, we can maneuver a lot easier, because instead of having Raymond having access to one van, you would actually have access to probably 4 for that price, because the other towns are paying for theirs, and we're able to deviate and move things around on demand.
How many towns around us are in your system?
Right now, Wyndham, Gorham, and Standish. You would be the next town up the 302 corridor, and then we're hoping to get this all the way to Bridgeton at some point here. Is kind of the plan. Again, this was not a planned stop this week to talk to Raymond. Teresa called me, and it kind of started the conversation last week or the week before.
One of the things I did ask Dawn too is if we did decide to do this, how can we get some kind of a flyer so we can send it to people? They have postcards that every person can get it to their home, and it has a QR code and like a phone number, and yeah.
And if you give me the number of postcards you need, we can have those done up. That's an easy thing. The other thing is we would promote it on all community Facebook pages over that way. And I would put a little, we also deal with WMTW with Hearst, and they do some online advertising for this. And I just have to open up the geography on it to include Raymond. And your people would see that when they, you know, look at something on their smartphone or look at something online, that would pop up that the service is now available in your town.
You mentioned shopping, and obviously it's great for Wyndham and probably Gorham. We don't have a Hannaford in Raymond. So what I would be curious of is this, whether you had to adjust that number, but for Raymond people just to take the bus to the library or to the church, maybe the dollar store down there maybe, but I'd rather see, if we're going to do this, to definitely incorporate into Wyndham where there is some medical facilities and Hannaford's and Shaw's. What would that end up being? Would it be would you just do a simply transition from $3 to $10, or would it be the base must just cover your expenses for the van and personnel?
Yeah, I think 80% of
Here's the thing. 67.5 is going to get you the service for the year. Whatever we make from the riders, we don't plan on charging more than $3. All right, that's regardless of where they're going. I mean, we don't. It's not a. You know, we're not a for-profit business. You know, it's going to break us even. It's going to throw a little money in the till for us. But at the end of the day, it's really about expanding the rural area and getting service in that area. And if they need to take it from Raymond to Wyndham, which we currently have some residents of Raymond using the Wyndham service because they're right on the line. They're like a mile off the line there in a housing complex. And what happened was they were actually one of the riders there lived in Wyndham, and she got a concussion, and she can't drive, and she takes that and she goes shopping twice a week. And ideally, what happens is you have 3 or 4 people that need rides at the same time, and we go pick up one to the other to the other to the other, and then take them shopping. And so it works out. And as far as going to Wyndham, I mean, Wyndham's the next town over from you guys. It's really like I said, I look at that as one big geographic area, but ultimately, with each town subsidizing their piece of it, I think it's going to work long term. I think that, there's not enough business in your area to do a full-blown transit system. Lakes Region Explorer, the ridership is steady, but it's not. It's never going to be like downtown Portland with the metro, and there's a need in your area for this type of service.
I agree. That's why I'm saying if it was Wyndham, Raymond to Wyndham, and I'm not talking about going to Portland or Westbrook, I'd be 100% behind this because it'd be a trial for us too. We'd have to see how much is used.
And I would say we include Wyndham as the $3 fare to bring them. They bring them there and back.
Thank you.
$3 each way, and then if it ends up that we need to adjust a year down the line and say, hey, maybe the parade is $5, maybe it's $7. But I'm saying the first year we're going to commit to doing $3.
Excellent.
I have a question. How many people can fit? What size is the van that it would be for this price?
These vans are these are 6 passengers with 2 wheelchair spots in the back as well. So so ultimately these are Ford Transit heavy duty. They have a bus door in the front to get in and out, so it's a double door.
So when the RSU bus calls out sick, you can't fit all those people on there.
No, but I'll have 2 more Lakes Region buses. They call me then.
So how are those vans on back roads? Because Raymond has some not friendly back roads.
Well, it's a Ford chassis. It's a Ford E350 chassis. A Ford heavy duty 350 chassis. So it's I've got 13 of those vehicles in the fleet. So if one of your back roads takes one out, we'll put another one on the road.
Just push it over the side.
We have our own mechanics. So
That's a good question though, because if you were to get stuck or damaged, we wouldn't be liable because it was a private road.
we're carrying our own insurance. So it's no different than us running to any other place in rural Maine.
Thank you.
So.
Does Deb Tarr have a question? She's the one that's doing the age-friendly, so I'd like to.
Does she?
Deb, do you have any questions for him?
No, but
If you're
Up to
gonna,
the-
you have to go up to the,
Sorry.
it's not to make you walk, but it's a fact, that's the way we can capture you so the people that are watching it can hear too.
Hi, Debbie Tarr, Age Friendly Raymond. I know a lot of people that do use it from the senior housing, and they love it. And I think that option to take people from Raymond to Wyndham is excellent and is needed. And I think there are no more people out there that need it that we're just not aware of yet. And I know if we could get this going, that I would be out there full force and trying to get the seniors in Raymond out. And I'll tell you, it's really tough in January, February, March, being homebound and not having a vehicle and having to rely on other people. And I just think this would be wonderful. And if we have an option, maybe not to, after if it doesn't work out money-wise, we can bring it back up next year. But I think this would be wonderful for seniors in Raymond.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
may I ask Mr. Libby a quick question? This bill from 7 Mill Street.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Libby, quick question. If they take the bus down to Wyndham, let's say they have an appointment at a doctor's office in Portland or somewhere in that area, and they take the Lake Region bus down, are they able to get a transfer ticket at the Pulse?
A transfer ticket at the Pulse to go around Portland?
Well, let's say their appointment is in South Portland.
Yeah, absolutely. Our drivers would give them a transfer ticket. And the Lakes Region bus is going to be part of the Dorigo bus pass system with the Metro as well. So that's coming up here probably mid-spring, early summer, which means that anybody that swipes the Dorigo bus pass has 90 minutes to go anywhere in Portland using the same pass. So they'll definitely, we have transfer tickets now on the bus for Portland, and it's going to become easier.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Kayla?
Hi, Kayla Gonzalez, 518 Webbs Mills Road. I'm just curious how this differs from the RTP Lakes Region bus that we don't offer here in Raymond. I'm just wondering, is this because it will come to your house as opposed to having a stop in Raymond?
Yes.
It's different in the sense that the Lakes Region bus is fixed route. It runs 4 times a day, and it's one set stop. This will go door to door, and this is on demand, which means that you could literally, it's like booking an Uber. You can go on an app, book it. It'll come up with an estimated time. You can track it and see it on the app and see in real time where the van is and when it's going to arrive. So it's more of a private, I say it's a shared service, but it's more of it's definitely on demand, last minute. I mean, you can book it with, 20 minutes to spare, and if it's in the area, you're going to get it.
Okay. I mean, I think that's a great option, but I also think considering funding the RTP Lakes Region bus for the 10,000 might also be a viable option.
Well, actually,
It's 12,000.
Or 12,000 seems a lot better than
But you could,
67.
that could be used to bring people to the bus and pick up, so.
Yes, I agree that it's a more directed service, but we also don't fund the
Right.
the
But
12,000.
If we did this, it could take them to either the Casco drop-off or the Wyndham drop-off.
And you said that they would still get to use that $3. It would cost them the $3 to then get on to the next bus connection, in a way?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Yeah?
I guess I was just curious, is this for any age? Is it all ages can get on the bus? I mean, on the quick rides?
All ages can get on the bus, yes, but obviously we're not going to take a 6-year-old without an adult, all right? We do have some high school kids using it in Wyndham that maybe get out of school early. They're on different, maybe an internship or a work study program, and the bus service didn't work for them, so we swing through and pick them up. The mother books it, and then every day we pick up the same. I think she's 14 or 15 years old that's in high school, and bring her to where she's got to go. So it can be, it really depends if they're responsible enough to ride. I mean, we're not going to pick up, like I said, a 6 or 8-year-old and or a kid that wants to run away from home and get in our bus. That's not going to happen.
So it's kind of like an Uber, which is, they come and they just pick people up and take them to where they need to go in Raymond.
Microtransit is the catchphrase that Transit's using right now, but it's really the same thing like Uber years ago was called rideshare, right? So, and everybody goes, what's rideshare? Well, microtransit is that new term, but that transit agencies are basically given, it's a way for us to give service to areas that are underutilized or underdeveloped as far as transit goes. And it's a way, in areas that are underserved that don't have enough demand, but still have demand, right? So this is a way to do it and a way to provide service to those areas. Prime example, the Metro had 3 stops or something in Falmouth that were very underused. And now they have a microtransit system that's running people to 1 stop, right? But it's taken up the one van is servicing that area where 3 stops were being serviced by 3 different routes. So it's kind of the same idea. In your case, Raymond is an area that is underserved. There's a need, and having that need, you don't have the demand for a 50-passenger bus, but you have the demand for something like this.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from anyone? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next is moving into consideration of the town meeting warrant articles and recommendations.
Can I ask a few questions before we actually get into warrants?
Yep.
We just got a new handout tonight. Can could you go over, I'm starting to go down through and notice the changes. I know when I raised that issue the other night, and I said I didn't think the 3.7 was accurate. It's changed to 4.5 now in the gross budget. Could you just, would they change insurance, for example? It looks like it went up from what you gave us originally, 118 to 187 on
Yes.
2026.
That was a sheer mistake. No idea where I got the number that was in there. That was a sheer oops on my part. So when Brenda and I looked at it again, I came to realize, and I ran it by Brenda, I should put it that way, that was wrong when I went over it yesterday, so I fixed it. Another one of the changes is I had left a 0 off on Nathan's striping. So that was 3,700, and it should have been 37,000, so that number's in here.
We talked about that.
And we talked about that one. Another change is in the revenue side where Chris had taken his 210,000 and dropped it down to 200. So those are some of the larger changes that happened in here. And I got no indication from the last meeting what to put in for provider agencies, so I threw the whole kit and caboodle at you.
Actually, I like that. As you went down, when you mentioned Public Works, that was another one I circled. It went from 10% on the sheet you handed us that I was working off from to 14, and it looks like it's just a $60,000 change on a $1 million budget. So that just that just seems like a big jump from 10 to 14. That's 4% on $1 million would be. Do you think $30,000 made that difference?
Wait, which one are you at?
Public Works, if you look across the line.
Let me go look at Public Works and see if that's all the change there was. Why am I not seeing it? Because it's upside down, that's why. Yeah, the 37 was the only change I made. Oh, the percentages are based on the totals with no benefits. In order to look at it year over year, everyone was calculating the benefits. If you go to your Public Works tab, then, or actually the new sheet I gave you in that packet for Public Works, it shows a new section at the bottom. This is total with no benefits, and the percentages increase from there.
Right.
So
Like
that's
when I
year
zeroed
over
them out,
year.
when I did, but the process I used where I took out all those numbers and gave them a budget to start with and then move forward.
Right.
So when you
That's
do
the same
that,
thing.
that makes a big difference on that. That's where the other 3.5%.
That's where it is, yes.
Okay, well, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So that's what that is.
And the last one I had was town buildings. It looks like it went from 13% on the original one we got handed down to 2.7. And I'm just dealing with percentages because when I started to do the numbers, even those were difficult to figure out.
Well, and that one even had some insurance and workman's comp in there that needed to be backed out. So if you look at the new sheet I gave you for that, and that's why you got so many new sheets, you have one for town buildings, and that also has a total with no benefits for each of the numbers, and that's where the 2.7 comes from.
So the first sheet you handed out said 3.7. The current one, with everything that's in there besides the ladder, is 4.5.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's with no change to county and to,
I understood,
that's
yeah.
keeping those flat.
That's
And
just us.
That was what Kurt wanted, just so you could see just you. Though we did, Derek and I had a conversation with Chris Howell. He happened to pop in today to see us, or to see me rather, and I believe he said 6%, Derek?
Increase?
Yes.
Yes. 6.
6-ish.
and a half.
Yeah, that's right.
Seriously?
Yeah, is what he's aiming at, but he didn't get me an email before the end of the day, or before I got up here, I should say.
Then the last thing that, for the total thing, as we start to get the school budget together and we're looking at the total increase, does the town reevaluation kick in this budget, or is it the following
The
budget?
following budget.
So,
No, not
Won't
even
even be
the,
that.
not even the
that.
following budget, it'd be the
No.
budget after.
thank you.
Yeah.
I was looking at this saying, this is going to be really complicated.
Yeah.
I'm done, thank you.
Frank?
To McDermott Road. Providing agencies. Went from 3,000 to 80,000.
That was putting everything in that was discussed the other night or last week, because I got no clear direction from anyone on what they wanted in that budget item.
I may become a provider.
So I gave it, I put the whole kit and caboodle in there.
Well, 67 of it is the van,
Yeah.
and then it was 10 for the dam that we all supported.
The provider agencies, it went up 2,500%. Not that it stands out at all.
So the last question before we start, we're going to, I take it, Chair, you're going to work through one warrant at a time.
Correct.
And at the last one, it says if the ladder or the truck is okayed. I'm assuming that's between budget and select board, or select board, whatever way you want to say it. We did a bond for $1 million for a rough figure for tassel tops and the pickleball, and a rough thing of 150 for. Wouldn't we put a rough figure in for the ladder if we agreed to? We're not going to have a chance to do a bond rating, right? A bond estimate. So if we vote for the ladder, would we just do an estimate of, and then if it goes up or down?
I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Brenda already has information about that. But when I was putting all of that together yesterday, I didn't have that information. So I just put a note in there that if you're going there, it will just take a few minutes to put together the question for that.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the other question on that is, and, Bruce should be able to answer. So, what's the cradle to grave time on that, and what funding actually has to go into that for next year versus when the unit's going to get delivered?
So you're asking if we pull the trigger today, how long?
Yeah.
Okay. We have one vendor that's talking 7 months.
Okay, 'cause I
from
thought,
order
I mean, because in the past,
deliver.
we've had some of
Right.
those have gone out like 2 years.
This is a stock truck, not a custom built truck like the others have been. So it is different in that respect. And depending on how we bond it, a prepay would save about $100,000 on certain vendors, certain trucks, and so there's different things that I guess I really couldn't give you a definitive on at this point, but it would really depend on how we decided to go about the financing. If it was a bond, if it was an upfront, the truck that will be delivered this summer, we did a full prepay on, and that was almost $40,000 in that area, give or take, that we saved right out the gate by doing that. So it was fairly significant.
And I think we looked at one of the options being a lease purchase on this. wasn't
Yeah,
it?
we've
Yes.
got a bunch of different.
There were a bunch of different financing that Brenda's looked at for this, to see which one would be
In
most
that
advantageous.
same vein, that could be spread out over 10 years as well with the lease purchase. They've been doing them
Yeah,
from
so if you went-
2 to 10.
So if you went lease purchase, your hit in 25-26 budget is only the lease payment.
That's correct.
So it's not, so I mean, we would have, essentially, you'd have a warrant article to commit to the purchase, but then it would go,
Yes.
then essentially it's a debt service issue after that.
Yeah.
Correct. So hard for me to define, I guess that's the point, but there's all kinds of options that may fit the town better.
Which, I mean, that'd be my inclination is,
Yeah.
it's either bond it, but I mean, if the lease payment, if the lease financing is reasonable versus bonding.
Yeah, when she looked at it a bit ago, that seemed to be the most advantageous direction
If
to
we
go.
bond, then you still have some costs associated with the bond.
Yes.
Even if we go at bond bank. And if we went bond bank, then you're limiting timing.
Yes, you are.
So you've only got 2 issues a year. And I think they've already done
I think they have, yeah.
So it'd be very similar to a bond anyway. It'd be a consistent payment.
It works,
right
yeah.
across,
Essentially it works.
Yeah.
I mean, because that is what we did on the rescue units.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. The rescue pumper, that's what we did.
Mr. Chair, we just remember what one of those numbers was, and lease purchase was 4.8%
That's right.
on the interest rate,
Yeah.
so.
And so what schedule did they give you on that? They give you-
It varied slightly when you increased it. It didn't go up like I thought it would when we increased to the 10 years. I think it went to 5.1 at the most, but it stayed under 5 for the most part, right up until that point.
Did they give you an annual fee or an annual amount?
Hang on one second. If I cleaned my glasses, I could probably read better, huh? Was that the one? No, there it is. Yeah, 175 to 185. Was that figure that you had written in? Yeah. So it should be in your CIP spreadsheet from the fire department. 175 to 185 was the estimated figures for that. That was without that fee built in, right? That was just the principal.
Annually?
Annually, yeah.
And how soon would you be able to get the vehicle?
And that was at the
Truck.
10-year mark, correct?
I believe it was
And,
7 months.
There are
7 months?
some that are
Because
7
it's
months.
stock,
and
it
a
isn't custom.
Stock.
Oh, that hits
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
markers.
Absolutely.
So essentially, you're 183.
Yeah.
Well, I suggest Sue has the rest of those packets for the budget committee. It has all the materials you're gonna be talking about tonight. Maybe we could let the members of the public have those for now so they can follow, because they have nothing to look at as you discuss this.
I don't care. Yeah.
We need them back because we have to get.
Yeah, I would need them back.
Budget committee.
So if anyone would like to follow along and come grab a copy, you're welcome. But we'll be going down through the warrant, however, and the warrant isn't included in that packet.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's the questions I had. I went through it as best I could. Pretty
You
straightforward.
need a copy anyway for your book.
Okay, so let us begin. Article 3, referendum question A, to see if the town will vote to set the date for the first half of taxes due October 31, 2025, and the second half taxes due April 30th, 2026. Set the interest rate on unpaid balances for abated tax at 7.5% for the fiscal year. Authorize the tax collector or treasurer to accept payment of taxes not committed pursuant to 36 MRSA subsection 506 with no interest, and authorize the select board on behalf of the town to sell and dispose of any property acquired by the town for non-payment of taxes pursuant to the policies adopted by the select board as may be amended from time to time. The policy to remain consistent with the state statutes and laws. In all cases, conveyances shall be made by municipal quitclaim deeds.
Are you asking us to do that motion to recommend or not recommend, or are we going to
Yes.
talk it through? Okay, so I make a motion that the select board recommend as written, Article 3.
Once it's, once the article's on the table, then we can discuss.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
I thought I saw 8% somewhere, and I don't.
You did, that was last year.
That was last year.
Every year, the state sets a new figure, and that's
Okay,
the
all right,
new
so I
one for
wasn't
this year.
imagining.
And we
Okay.
set it at the max that the state allows.
Okay.
Other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I have a question in general, though. I wasn't really paying attention to the part that we were going to vote on this. Once we vote on it, the budget committee will then go through and they'll vote on it. I'm just talking procedural.
Correct.
If there's a disagreement between bodies, do we meet and then we decide as a group to change it, or can we meet as a select board to say we want to change it, or how does that
No,
work?
we're just doing, the select board
Okay.
recommends it. and
So
budget finance
we're
will
making our
recommend.
recommendation.
This is our final?
Yeah. We make our recommendation, it will go back to, it'll then go to the budget committee, they'll make
Okay.
their recommendation, it'll come to us, and you can have two different recommendations, you can have the same. We then finalize the warrant. So if there's something, we could,
If we miss some, that's all I was wondering.
yeah. But we don't have another meeting with them,
Okay.
they deal with that separately. Just as-
The only reason I'm asking is we had changes since the last meeting, and if we missed something, I just didn't know how we would go about changing it up or down, that's all. So,
Yeah.
and we're going to be able to vote on the latter anyway, right?
Yes.
Tonight, okay.
Article 4, referendum question B, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $3,125,416 for general government services, administration, assessing, code enforcement, employee benefits, general assistance, insurance, recreation, and technology.
Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, the percentage of the budget. Ooh, this needs to be cut.
Yep.
This needs to be cut, really cut. And I hate saying that because just for the expenses, we're at 13.6. And so, again, we've talked about the county coming in and we've talked about the school and now understanding that the school might be 6.5. I don't even remember it ever being, I think, that high.
Well, it won't be when you do revenues. It's 4.5.
Well, I'm looking at the expenses. So with that being said, I guess I would like to, I would, because this is a conversation. Do you want a motion first? Or do you want to talk about this first? I think we should talk about this
Well,
first.
it's going to drive to where the motion is, because if you make, I mean, if we discuss it and then it changes what that figure is, then you'd make the motion there. Otherwise, if we make the motion and it's seconded, then you'd have to do an amendment.
All right, I don't want to do that then. All right, so I guess what I'm asking from any of the department heads, is there anything that you guys can give back? At that number being 13.6, can you guys cut anywhere that we would not have to? That's what I'm asking. Don't everybody raise their hand at one time either. I mean, so yeah.
We're on administration right now.
No, I am asking a generalized question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is what I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
Yes, no.
Because Article 4 goes through administration, assessing, codes, employee benefits, general assistance, insurances, recreation, and technology.
Well, maybe,
But can you,
I have a question though, for insurance
I know.
went up. So I'm wondering why it went up. So you're looking for a cut. I'm asking why it went up since the last time I saw it.
It went up because I made a mistake in what you had in there. I don't know where I got 58,000 as a budget amount. It should have been 110, I think it was. Let me look at insurances. If you look at the new sheet I gave you for insurances, you'll see the initial request was 58.5. It should have been 110,805. And the same with the workman's comp. I had put in 60,000. Looking at back the history of what we've done so far, it really should have been more like 76. I gave each of them a 4% increase, knowing that insurances never go down.
What were the two again, so I can make a note, because again,
Well,
look at the cuts.
It's on your insurance sheet, if that's helpful.
On the one that you just gave us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one that for insurances.
so where would that van go? Would it go under public,
That goes under provider agency, so it
and
isn't.
that would
in-
not go under rec because
Where are you?
age friendly is currently under rec?
Expenses,
No.
insurance, right there.
Well, yeah.
At least it wasn't. At the meeting the other night, I was told that's as good a place as any to put it.
I mean, essentially, it would,
Yeah, it's alphabetical order.
where you have a budget right now is, is kind of 6017 of the other.
So it's this one.
Who's going to oversee it? Then, yeah, the logic would be either
This was
Put it under rec.
106
put it under rec, but,
for last
so-
year. and then
but I
for some
mean,
reason
you
this
first have to
is
make the decision on whether you're
half
going
of what it's supposed to be.
go with
Do it or not?
Less.
So right
Well-
now,
okay.
as far as looking at it from what bucket it's in right now, it's not as germane as do we actually want to do it or not.
Well, but I'm looking, where then is, what letter will we be in? Because I'm not seeing it.
What? What are you guys talking
You mean
about?
in articles?
Yes,
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the article
Provider
where it would be in.
agencies. Let's see.
Provider
Public
agencies,
Works.
and I'm not seeing that.
Do-
Yeah, it's in here.
It is, but it's a ways down.
Oh, wait a minute, Article 20.
Okay, I wasn't there yet, I got to 16.
Okay, all right, I just want to be sure. All right, so, and again, I know we're on Article 4, I understand that, but I'm looking at each of these department heads in our Article 4, 5, and 6, because these are all the department heads, so that's why I'm asking if there's anything that somebody feels like they can put out there to cut back on budgets.
Well, I'm looking at the insurance rate now as a way to look at a cut. We've currently paid out 46,000, and there's 60 remaining. We're 8.5 months into that budget, which means, we're talking a third. So there's extra money in that account that's going to be left over from this budget. Why are we going to go up?
I would not touch insurance, that is so.
Well, I'm just doing simple math here.
Yeah, but you can't necessarily do simple math, because you have to look at the billing cycles.
Oh, it isn't on our fiscal
It's not
year?
it's not flat funded across the year.
So does it mean when we ramp up for hiring and whatever
Well,
for the
you
other
have
departments,
two
does
things
those
that come
kick in
into
then?
play, your P and C, you got a certain payment schedule on there. But the other thing that happens is because on the medical insurance, that runs on a calendar year.
Okay.
And so what you have to do is you have to estimate where,
I'm going to make a note on that.
Starting the fiscal year, you're going to start, you've got from July to December where you know the rate, and then you're estimating what the January through June is going to be. So
That makes sense. What else is a calendar year that's not on our budget? Is that the only thing? It's important for me to know what the
Typically, the P and C go on a calendar year, does that go on a fiscal year, the billing on that?
I don't know, Brenda would know, possibly. Brenda? Is she still,
Yes, madam.
is property and casualty on a fiscal year as opposed to a fiscal year?
Yeah, that's calendar.
Yeah. And it is just the insurances that are on a calendar year, I think, is that correct?
No.
No?
Oh, yeah, the health is too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think all the insurance is calendar.
Nathan's got his hand up, Mr. Chair.
Nathan?
So Rolf, I added $100,000 to my CIP account. Obviously, the one thing we're committed to is the plow truck that's been ordered. And I'd like to keep the 40 grand for painting the one truck and the loader. The shoulder box, we could probably rent that another year, and the 3/4 ton pickup, I'm sure we can push that out for a couple more years. That would take 100,000 out of that.
Well, the CIP is going to be a slightly different discussion too, because under the CIP, you've got two things to keep in mind. You've got a raise, and then you've got an appropriate. The appropriation is what you're going to spend this year, but you've already, essentially the CIP is already holding funds. So you've already got that, and essentially what you're, if we were to, for example, if we were to lower the raise on the CIP, but keep the appropriate at the same level, it's not stopping doing anything out of the CIP that's planned for that fiscal year. The only effect you'd have is what the carryover is going to be at the end of the fiscal year. So you can still accomplish the same task if you wanted. It's just that your carryover is going to would be lower in that at the end of the year.
Okay.
If you kind of see it, so I mean that's one area we could look at and say, okay, if we lower the raise and not raise the $1,015,000 this year, we raise say only 600,000, that would drop your raise, which would drop your budget, but we keep the
Right.
appropriate the same.
And the rollover.
So you still do the same, your same purchasing, because you're purchasing based on what's, what you've got that's been in the carryover. So you haven't handicapped yourself there. All you're doing is moving, and, perhaps that's gonna force you to move some things out, out a year or so, or part of a whatever, but that's part of what the CIP does, is it looks at it, and it is a variable in there, so that you can do some shifting in there of things out. But, if we did something like that, it certainly helps that bottom line here, but it doesn't handicap you for
Right.
what you wanted to do this
Right,
year.
because he's carrying over, it looks like 150. So that,
146, 731.
No, he's looking,
Yeah.
Nate, he's looking at the whole line, the 1256 is what Rolf's talking about.
Right.
yes.
He's not talking at Nathan's budget, he's talking at the
CIP.
whole thing, the whole CIP.
Right, it lowers it down 100,000. But he's still, it's not going to affect whether he buys, it's going to drop it down, but if he gets the raise, he'll have 471,000. If he doesn't get the raise, it'll be 371,000 with the rollover. So I think it's a good suggestion.
The only other, the rest of the stuff in my operating budget, winter sand, salt went up. I can't really see anywhere to cut. We could cut that administration. We could go another year the way we've been doing it.
No.
No, but we really can't, because the town
No.
manager needs that too,
Okay.
and you need it.
All right, so you're
I
talking,
do. I don't disagree with that at all.
You've needed that for 10 years that I've been here.
Well, this would be appropriate to, you had said you weren't able to hire the 7th position last year.
I've got a guy, actually, we're talking to a guy right now.
Yeah, but you haven't hired him up until this point, correct? So that's a year and 8 months.
Correct.
but that money isn't sitting in there, that went back into the undesignated fund.
Well, I budgeted it for next year.
No,
Right, for next year, yeah.
it was used to balance out the budget. All the funds evidently went together to balance out the budget, right? You allowed that, you asked that question at the end of the budget. You said, do we have enough funds to balance out all the bills at this stage by moving things around? So it didn't necessarily go into unfunded liability.
Well, no, I mean,
Surplus.
aren't you talking about a year and whatever, so many months of money that he hasn't had an employee?
Right, a
So-
year and a half.
Yeah, but that
Right,
would- that-
so what do you, I guess where are you going with that?
Unspent funds
Right.
end up back into
Right, if they're not
undesignated
used to
surplus.
balance out the budget.
What you're talking about is the fact that we had some overspends in certain areas last year. And so to close the books, we had to balance. And the question was, did we have enough that was in other areas there and unspent? So that the net effect would be, if we use that, it would just be a little bit less that was going into
That's my point. That's exactly my point.
Yeah, so if
It leapfrogs.
if he's got,
But it
you know,
gets there
if he has a hire that he does partway through the year, he's only, whatever's unspent on that is gonna ultimately roll back into undesignated fund balance.
But what I heard is if that's not acceptable, the bottom line there of 4.5, it'll be probably 5.5 or whatever with the ladder. And we haven't hired someone for 18 months. It's something to look at.
8 months, it hasn't been 18 months.
Yeah, well, the year before you said you didn't hire. You carried it over. I mean,
Correct.
it went into the
That was
budget.
last year. We're operating out of this year's fiscal. We had some turnaround there in July. We had one guy get done in July and one got done, was August, I think it was. Out of fiscal year 25.
I was just looking for money. I mean, that's what I did the last meeting. And it was
Well,
some-
but that money's not there now in his budget for this year, though. I think that's what you're,
No, he's got the position in there for.
yes,
Yeah, this is for
exactly.
25.
It's in this budget.
Yes.
So what are you saying?
Yeah.
Not
I'm
fund
saying
it?
if you didn't hire
don't want-
someone for a whole year, and then this year that we funded again, and hasn't been hired in 8 months, and I asked about it, that's a long time not to need a person, or even if you need it, not to have a person. And if we're gonna be cutting things, I think that's something to do, or we cut new positions, one or the other. It's got to be something along that line.
No, this is a new this year budget. So that money isn't
that.
sitting there for that year, 8 months or whatever.
agree.
Yeah. So
agree.
he
He's
needs
saying-
that for his person.
He's saying cut that person.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you haven't used them in 18,
what he's saying.
year and a
Cut the
half.
But he has, no, no.
We had them last winter, Dennis.
I know what you're saying, though. I understand that.
That's not our call to say that. That's another
No.
thing too, is we can't say where to cut this in
I'm
somebody's
just looking
budget.
for money, and I thought that.
I know
was
that,
for
but
everyone. You
I'm
said
not gonna tell a
operating budget.
department head to cut a person when he knows what his work level is, and same thing with public safety.
Okay.
I mean, you could say that we want to cut your budget by $50,000. Then he's got to deal with that. On
Good point. Okay, thank you.
How he does that.
Yeah.
It may not be head, it may be, maybe whatever.
Okay.
But we can't, in this, we can't say that, here's, I think you should have,
Good point. Well taken. I'm just trying to find money. If there's money out there that hasn't been spent in a length of time, I thought it might be something to bring up.
All right, so back to then the warrant. All right, so we got 100,000. How much do we need to get this down? If we are at,
well, what are you trying to get?
well,
How much
if we're
money?
at 13.6 and just the expenses, yes, to get that down to say like 6%, 5%.
Oh, that's,
Half, 500 grand.
Yeah.
Okay,
so you take the cost of living out. and you-
600 maybe.
okay, so we've got, all right. Okay,
Yeah, so if no one got raises this year at all.
no, I'm not doing that yet, no.
Should we be doing this, warrants now? Or should we be discussion about what we want to get it down to, and then have discussion about everything again?
Well, it's not our job also to do what people should get for raises. We can give a percentage as far as a max percentage, but
I thought you just said no to the town manager when she said that.
What I said was, well, we could give no one any raises at all this year.
and I said no.
And that's when she said no.
Yes.
That's what I thought happened.
Well, people need raises.
I'm not disagreeing.
So to get to 5%, you'd have to take $369,269 out. That would get you to 5%.
70,000. And technically, this is the 100,000
Of
from.
gross, you're talking about.
Yeah.
Before revenue.
I'm talking
Okay.
total municipal appropriation.
Yeah.
And so when you.
But
have
we
the-
also don't have education in there.
No. No.
Which is, education, we can't control it. It's the same thing as the county tax. We can't control.
Right,
that.
but I mean, we should
can't
probably go
not-
off this number.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, I'm talking of, if you want to take that
Yes.
13.6.
If you want to take 13.6 down to 5, it's more than 360,000 or whatever you just said. It's more like,
If I take the 7,000,003, escalate at 5%.
yeah, that's only going up 300 something,
Right.
taking almost 700
Yeah,
out.
I'm sorry, I did that backwards. I'm sorry.
It's all right. That's why we're here. Figure this thing out.
Yeah, it'd be like more like 6:30 or something.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I had an inverse function.
So, let's go back.
So if you,
Sorry.
so I mean, if you took 600 out of the CIP
Yes.
on the raise side, that would get you essentially there.
Yes.
Say take 600 out of the total of CIP.
Of raising.
Do I have the new? The CIP didn't change, correct?
That's correct.
So with that, then we're not ripping apart their budgets.
So it would take, if you changed your
Budget addition.
your raise to 415
Under the 1256?
on the CIP.
I know that's where I'm at, but
Take
Well-
415,000.
Well, facilities got 207, according to 207 that's rolled over, plus the one that, plus the raise for facilities. And that used to be 50,000 that's been rolling over for a while. Nathan,
Yes,
didn't you say you had $207,000?
207,000 in that account, 207,141. And we budgeted, the budget request is 85 for that. It could ease, I don't have anything earmarked. I got fuel pumps in there.
you got the public safety boiler.
Furnace. Yeah, their heater. That was, I think he said was around 20,000.
But
Yeah, but you're confused,
Yes,
you're
he's-
confusing the
Yeah,
two.
back
the
at the
whole
What I'm
amount.
CIP.
saying is don't change the appropriate. Keep the appropriate the same. So you're still gonna say, we're still gonna spend the same amount out of there. All we're talking
just
now
not funding it.
is
Or
not-
half of it.
not putting in as much, so we're not, so our rollover,
Right.
Your budget addition is
I
half.
agree. And what I'm saying is, if you're rolling, if that's 85 he's requesting, and we've got 207, and you subtract 85 from 207, it gives you a pretty good chunk of money to start if you're looking for $600,000 or $400,000.
Yeah, but I don't think we're doing this. I think we're giving the bottom line a number
Oh,
to do.
okay.
And let them
I'm
figure it
saying you
out.
should do that as a proportional.
And how do we vote on the warrants before they have a chance to do all their own research on that?
Because they've already told us what their need
Needs
is
are.
for this year, for this budget cycle. So all we're talking about is what the carryover amount's gonna be at the end of the year.
To accomplish what they need.
Right, because that's gonna, that looks at what's their downstream CIP needs. So it is, so then that gives them the chance to look at that and say, okay, if we shift this one out a little bit and we do something different there, so we're giving them the flexibility there to relook at that and readjust some of that stuff.
That I understand. What I'm saying is, how do we vote on warrants while they're doing the work to figure that out?
Well, these are our non-affected then. If we're doing just CIP, if you change that vote on the CIP, these all.
It's only the CIP.
These don't
What
get
it'll say
affected at
is
all.
that raise 416, but appropriate whatever what's the appropriate figure here?
You balance it all out through all the departments. So they have the money they need through rollover to get what they need done, accomplished.
No, you're still going to appropriate the,
These are still here, and those are still here. This is what you're taking down, which will eventually lower
You're gonna-
these. That's the only difference. You
You're gonna
still have
ra-
enough here to do this, even
what
if
you're
you
going to do
lower
is
that.
you're going to raise 415,000, but appropriate $1,389,773.
773.
So we're not changing anything in their spending for this year. All that's going to change is their carry forward. So
Line 3
because-
doesn't change at all.
Nope.
That's the one that doesn't change, and then the other ones will get adjusted because of the budget addition will get changed, so it adjusts these numbers, but this number does not change. That's what they had planned to spend, they still will plan to spend it, we're just not funding as much of that.
Yeah, because that's quite a bit of money available.
Yeah.
That's quite a chunk of money available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that would still leave you a carry forward of around.
Okay. So you'd say we'd
$4 million.
balance it there and then tell them to figure out what they're going to do with it as departments?
Yeah.
As a town manager?
For the out years on the CIP, because
Okay.
that's.
Technically, still, some of these wouldn't change, they just have to adjust where they're coming out in the next year or two,
So,
or get bonded.
going to Article 4 then, because if everybody's in agreement with that CIP plan, that's, how much, what does that get us down to?
That would get you down to,
And we'd have to change that in Article 20.
Employee benefits, we just cut those in
Right.
half.
Well, we know we've got money there. It's just which way we take it.
Oh, let's see.
I
So
wonder
we
if that,
have,
is that the 600 one too? That is, no, which one's that?
Well,
That's the inflated number that goes down?
No, it's not funded, it's just.
Oh, that's true, it's in
acknowledged.
our, yeah.
An acknowledgement of money is different from appropriation.
minus,
No, there's nothing on that one.
so it's 600,000 that comes out of there. Let's see. 8, 3.
You trying to determine the percent overage?
3.
Because if we do 14 rate,
Make that
What?
7.
I can do that.
Rolf, is that what you're trying to do? Let me double check it.
3, 5.
nothing like talking as he's putting numbers in and gets them confused.
Low on my battery.
Just don't start listing off numbers.
Yeah.
That would give you, that would put you at 5.5%.
And you did it even 600?
I took 600 out,
Yep.
so I put, yeah, I took, so that would put you then at, put you at 5.5%.
And after revenues, what would it be? We might as well talk about it before we move forward.
Well, it's hard because we don't have education or accounting.
Nope.
Yeah, we
You'd have
just.
to guess.
I mean, if you,
Yeah, but you can use revenues to
So,
offset that.
do we,
well, I mean, okay, so essentially, if you know, so what you're saying there is you have an increase in revenues of $1 million, so, so you'd be, if you applied it all there, so you'd be 7793
It's going to be a much more
3
impressive number.
minus
Yeah. Then 5.5. It's
Yeah.
gonna be even better. Yeah.
8,
I think being at 5.5 is still a little bit scary with what's coming in.
7.
We're talking about
The wrong
gross.
button. Hit the wrong button.
Well, and if we have basically no carryover for some of the accounts in CIP, we could take up to almost 730 out of that. But it would mean starting everyone from scratch next year, and they would
I
have
wouldn't,
larger
I wouldn't want to do
tasks.
that.
No. No, I wouldn't want to do that either, but it is there.
It would, if you took the total, if you took that, I mean, essentially, if you took, you know, that's where it's a little hard, but if you took that total revenue and applied it against the municipal, you'd actually have a decrease.
That's what I thought.
Right.
That's exactly what I thought. That's the point.
But you're not going to.
But you're not going to.
Correct.
Because we know county tax is going up, we just don't know what the figure is. And we know the school's going up. So if you balance that all out, you're probably looking at an overall increase then of maybe 3.8. Or, well, maybe, no.
With
Actually,
that
no,
revenues in?
No, I'm
Still-
sorry.
It's still gonna be more.
Let's do it this way. 1, 3, 2, 6,
School was 12 million.
5.
No.
Last year's budget wasn't it 12?
Yeah, it came in under.
All right, so say 12 times 6%.
Call that.
So they're gonna have a 720 increase just for the school.
I think it's 1.6.
That's more.
Come on.
And by
Good time for my pen to run.
well,
Oh,
you're doing our
Want my
portion,
pen?
though, I believe, right? So
31.
Yeah, then we get half of that.
yeah.
Let's
18%.
say county tax goes up.
But I don't know. He hasn't
Oh,
emailed
that
me, so I don't know
yeah.
exactly. So I'd rather not say.
Times 1.05. We'll give, say, 5% on the county. 761.
5 increase.
Hmm?
Increase.
Yeah, I said for rough figures now, use a 5% increase on county tax and 6.5% increase on the school. So that would put you at.
Well, in the past history of the county tax is 6, 9, and 8 for percentages.
Yeah,
5's low.
10.
10 is what I had originally projected on your sheets.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If we're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything added in.
It's not, because we don't know yet.
Well, she said she put in 10%. didn't
Oh, I
see
think
it.
that was
No,
previous.
on the, in your tab of county tax,
Yeah.
I had put in there a 10% increase, and then Kurt told me, don't put that in the final
okay.
sheet, in the summary. Mm-hmm.
People
So
will think it's
in the
legit.
tab in your binder, it didn't change.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
So it'd be,
And we're 4 years into paying for the 6-month fiscal year change from 24 and 20.
right.
No, that was 23, 24.
So the 27% increase on employee benefits, is that because it was zeroed out? Because it's not zeroed out on here, but this is a,
Yeah,
Are you in the summary sheet now?
yeah,
Okay.
depending on, well, that depends on where the county tax comes in, but you'd still be looking at
Oops, I don't see what you mean.
5.5 to
by zeroed out.
6%.
huh?
General assistance
Okay.
was 0.
At the, at the
No, I'm saying it's,
gross.
no, it's not zeroed out here, so it's just,
So if we're trying to get it down to that,
why is that
Then-
27% more?
But,
Because it went up 27%. Went from
see,
1 million to 1.3.
he's
A
taken,
$283,000 increase.
but what I don't have here is,
And
What I'm saying is what,
Oh, so you're asking what made that up?
yes.
Okay, I'm here now.
what I don't have here is what
So if you go to
the,
your employee benefits,
what Kurt's
Yep.
estimating
Sheets.
for increased
Is it,
valuation.
we have what the estimates are for all of those,
mm-hmm,
that it was a 27% increase.
evaluation?
No, for
employee benefits.
Sorry.
Do we have, did Kurt give us a
But is it because there's employee numbers are
projected
going up?
increase on
Oops,
valuation?
I've got 2 questions, I'm sorry.
Did Kurt give us an estimate on increased valuation?
I don't
Yeah.
He said
recall,
what
I
it
think
was, but
so.
I don't know if I saw it right.
No, he didn't for this. He did sort of, he gave me that possibility of income, of the property taxes. He gave me the numbers for the homestead, the Betty, the property
Right.
taxes, et cetera.
So he's estimating the property tax.
He has an
by about a
increase.
million.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, okay,
1 million, that's what was, yeah, we said.
okay.
So if we use that CIP, and then we also use some of the fund balance, did you include that when you were getting that 5.5, 6%?
Well,
Did you use
that's
the 300?
factoring on 300,000, but,
That's 300,000, you put that in there, right?
yes.
Okay,
The 300.
Yep.
The 300,000 is in the income side.
okay.
Yeah, and I just
mean,
left that to what was in
At the
there.
time of commitment, you know, there is a warrant article to authorize up to use up to 700,000 in undesignated, but
If needed.
until you get to commitment.
Yep.
You
You don't know how much.
You don't want to commit on how much of that you're going to use, because that's your balance, that's your balancing to get the mill rate to where you want it to be.
Right. Okay, so then, is everybody happy with that 5.5 by doing that? Or do you want to go down a little bit more?
Well, if you're an you're an insurance guy, do you know why this increase is so much? Is this increase of employees, like, is it a combination?
What's it on?
It's a combination, it's a combination of.
2020 on,
You've got an
$300,000
you have an increase in
increase.
headcount. You have an increase in estimated premiums for the January to June, which the for this year, the increases have been in the, anywhere from 15 to 20%.
I don't think it's going to get cheaper as we move forward with everything going on in the world. You know, I think, and I think retention is important right now. I have no problem with the 5.5 after everything we just did. I mean, you know, the normal thing would say, let's eliminate any new employees because they're not here now. And that would save us at least 2 positions, if not 3, I think. But, you know, it sounds to me like that's a decision for the town manager.
All right.
That's where, I mean, as Nathan said, we've limped along this long, but we have been limping along, and it's been getting much more difficult. And as town manager, I've been continuing to take care of the cemeteries, try and take care of the
Been out there.
document management system, and creating a budget book.
And the multiple hats.
Yeah, so the,
do a lot.
going forward, we really need someone that can do that work.
I don't think any of this is frivolous.
Yeah.
You know, I
No,
don't.
I mean, we did put in the budget, and I told the department heads to do this, to put in what you truly think you need.
All right, so moving up, Frank.
County tax and the school tax. And it seems to me for every year for the last 20 years, we look at those 2 items and we say we can't change them and we can't. But what tends to happen is we cut ourselves.
Yep.
We worry about keeping it down because the other ones are going up. Well, when we do that, the amount of money we really ought to be spending for the town services keeps going down and down and down. And the other ones up and up and up. So you've got to face it. If the taxes are going to go up 5.5%, you can explain that to the town by telling them this is what we need to run the town. We have expenses we have no control over. And just because they go up a lot, we can't take that out of what we need to run the town. And I understand you want to do the best you possibly can for the taxpayers, and that's what you're there for. But you've got to look at what does it really take to run this town the way it should be run. If you don't have the personnel to do the job, you're cheating the taxpayer because they aren't getting the best possible town services that they deserve. Raymond is in a really good position because of the number of summer properties we have that have high valuations. Just think of what it would be like if we didn't have those. We'd really be in deep doo-doo. So I'm just saying to you, I really think you've got to consider what it really takes to run the town the way it needs to be run. We may grumble a little bit when we get the tax bill, but if we're getting the services that we need in an appropriate manner, then it's worth it.
It's kind of like the only thing we can control is our own budget, but you're right, yeah.
Yeah,
And
here's
We're
what's
starting to try
our
and
budget is a
overcompensate.
third of
Yeah.
the cost.
Okay.
All right, so going back to, if you guys are good with the, that 5.5, cutting that out of the CIP, then all these numbers here, being the admin, assessing code, employee benefit, general assistance, insurances, recreation, and technology, I make a motion that the select board recommends Article 4.
Second.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried.
This is on Public Works.
Article
Oh, sorry.
5, referendum question C. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,627,495 for public works.
Public Works, Town Buildings, Solid Waste, and Cemeteries. I make a motion that the Select Board recommends Article 5 as written.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 6, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,445,806 for public safety. That's fire department and animal control.
I make a motion to recommend Article 6 as written.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to dispose of town-owned personal property with a value not to exceed $75,000.
I make a motion to recommend Article 7 as written.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Article 8, see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to appropriate from undesignated fund balance surplus to meet the unanticipated needs of the community that occurred during the fiscal year and/or to adjust the tax rate as the Select Board deems advisable, an amount not to exceed $75,000.
A motion to recommend Article 8 as written.
Second?
Discussion?
One question.
Yeah.
This isn't actually being allocated, it's only if we need, right? It sits in unfunded unless you need it. The Select Board.
Yeah, that's the emergency fund.
Right.
We didn't tap into it this year. The times that we've tapped into it, when we had the roof units go on the fire department, we tapped it for there. When we had to remotor or repower the boat, we tapped it there. But
Other than that, it doesn't get part of the tax.
no, I mean, it's one of
Okay.
those that we look, if that gives us the authorization, to do on those. If it's more than that, then we would go to a special town meeting in order to approve a larger thing. But that allows us to, allows the Select Board to act on emergencies.
Just the only reason I say this, some people might not know it. I think that some of these ought to be.
Yeah, well, and
And it doesn't carry forward, that resets each year. So.
Good
Well,
point.
and a key to the verbiage in the warrant articles is if you're raising, that's going to affect the mill rate. You're raising
Right.
the money from the taxpayers. If you're appropriating, that's giving the town the right to spend the money in the article. So that's what those two terms, in practical terms, mean.
That's good to know, too. Thank you.
Did we, who's?
I do.
It was moved and seconded by Derek?
Nope.
No. Okay. Moved, seconded by Dennis?
Yep.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No. Motion's carried. Article 9, see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to transfer funds between appropriation accounts as long as the grand total of all appropriations is not exceeded. Any such transfers to be approved only at a properly called public meeting of the Select Board.
Motion to recommend Article 9 as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion?
Yes. This, again, I'm trying to learn as much as I can here. Does this happen at the end of the budget if you move things between fire department to another account or public works to another account? When that's done, do we have to call a meeting to explain that to the public? Because it says after being called?
The movement is done at a properly called, it's an agenda item on a Select Board meeting to do that. That's used to close, because you have to have balanced books at the end of the year, so you have two options. One, if there's unspent funds we can move that in order to clear that. Otherwise, we end up having to take it from
I understand the process, I just never remember that meeting. So I was wondering when, so once you get the audit, we'll call a meeting if we had to move stuff around?
It's when you close the year. The audit will prove it after the fact, but when you
like our July meeting.
When you go to close and balance the books at the end of the year, that's when you'd see if any areas had been overspent.
Okay.
You have to
In
offset.
that case, the town manager would notify you as chair, and then you'd set up a meeting, say we had to move money from Public Works to Fire Department, or whatever it is. Okay, and then
Well-
evidently that didn't happen, we didn't have to do it.
No, we've rarely had to do that. It's because it's within the whole budget of Public Works, for instance, to pick on Nathan. He might overspend one line and underspend another, but his total budget is fine.
Okay, that's all I was wondering about, is
Yeah,
why I
and
hadn't
that's-
seen it, so
Yeah,
evidently every budget comes in.
it isn't the line
Okay.
items, it's the total budget for the departments.
Thank you.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 10, to see if the vote will authorize the Select Board to allow the town staff to make applications and execute any documents related to grants, accept and reject grants, donations, and/or gifts money to the town of Raymond, and authorize the expenditure of monies awarded, donated, and/or gifted for the purpose specified in the grant, donations, and/or gifts.
Motion to approve Article 10 as written.
Second.
Discussion?
Give Sam the second.
All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to appropriate from the undesignated fund balance surplus to reduce the property tax commitment as the Select Board deems advisable in an amount not to exceed $700,000.
This article, sir, I left as you had it last year. I didn't know what you would want in there.
I mean, where it's written as
300.
not to exceed, I think that's fine.
Okay.
It's,
We can do
As
up
I said,
to.
last year, we used 300 of it.
Yep.
And that,
Yes.
we'd use that at the time of commitment in order to get the mill rate to where we want it to be.
Yes.
All right, so a motion to approve Article 11 as written.
Last question on this one.
Well, it has to be second.
What, oh, I
No.
thought he did second it.
No, because then it opens
Did
for
you already
discussion.
finish?
No, once, if it's been seconded.
No, it
then
hasn't
we
been
have-
seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No, nobody seconded it.
right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Parliament.
Yes. How much is actually under liability right now?
Undesignated, Brenda?
I mean, funded, yeah.
Ah,
Brenda, do you have undesignated?
Yes, 4398880.
Okay.
4398.
880. And at the end, an approximate ending, it's not final on the audit, but as of right now, June was 4262212.
Over 4 mil.
What?
It's over $4 million.
Yes,
Yeah.
4262212 was as of June 30.
and,
That's not like, final, but
Right.
it kind of is.
and the figure we're trying to, we're trying to keep that.
20.
There's a figure that the finance people like to, the auditors and the rating agencies like to see you have. So, that's part of how we maintain the AAA rating, is keeping that at a figure that's acceptable to them, too.
And is that 20% of the gross budget?
It's actually in your tab at the back of
Yep.
undesignated
It's
fund,
15.
Okay, I just,
where it's 15%.
15% of
15%.
prior year's tax commitment.
okay. I thought it was right there around there. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's good information for the general public.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to appropriate $511,177 from the tax increment and pipeline, Route 302 tax increment financing district for fiscal year 25-26. Projects proposed in the tax increment financing district development program. For the details, see addendum 1.
A motion to approve Article 12 as written.
Second?
Sam?
Sam, seconded. Discussion.
It went up from the figures I had the last time. It was like 305. I'm just curious what got added at the last meeting. I'm sorry for the questions, but I'd like to keep my notes pretty accurate.
Under TIF?
Yeah, it went up from 305 to 511.
The initial request was 511, that one didn't change.
That didn't change?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The broadband ring debt service payment is the difference
The
between
final
those two.
payment? Is that what-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
broadband, because that can come out of TIF.
Yep, great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't remember what it was, and
Yep, that's what that was. That's why I have it highlighted evidently, I missed it.
Moved and seconded. Other discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 13, the town will vote to appropriate from the Tasseltop Park Enterprise Fund the amount of $144,500 for the administration of activities at the park, and to allocate all revenues generated by the park operations to be recorded and retained in the Tasseltop Park Enterprise Fund.
Motion to approve Article 13 as written. Sam
Second.
seconded it.
Is there a second?
Sam did.
Sam did.
Oh, Sam did? Okay. Didn't look quick enough. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from the Recreation Program Special Revenue Fund the amount of $198,500 for the administration of activities at the programs, and to allocate all revenues generated by the program operations to be recorded in and retained by the Recreation Programs Enterprise Fund.
Motion to approve Article 14 as written.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $578,840 for debt service. That accounts for the lease purchase on the rescue pumper truck, Tasseltop Snack Shop, and Public Works Garage Design, and broadband fiber ring loan.
Motion to approve Article 15 as written.
second?
Discussion?
You know I got questions. It says the broadband is here for the 253. Was that moved to the TIF?
No, the money for this payment will be transferred from the TIF to debt services.
I like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $203,701 for the Raymond Village Library.
Motion to recommend Article 16 as written.
Second.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 17. Okay, so here's.
This one I'll need to rewrite.
Yeah, here's the one that we're going, that we're going to, it's going to be, the article is going to read, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $415,000 for the capital, will vote to raise $415,000 and appropriate
The 1.2.
$1,389,773 for the capital improvement program.
Wait, how? Okay. I guess you
Some
second.
of what you have in the one, let me get back to capital, or what the numbers wrong. That is already appropriated. Everything that's being carried forward from
That's right,
last year,
Okay,
from this year rather, has already been appropriated. So I think I'll need to make some adjustments unless you want to do some calculating.
Well, it's
so the raise side is going to be 415,
Right.
Okay.
and the appropriate is anything that's not been appropriated before, that's part of that $1.3 million
Yes.
you have 415 on what?
on the raise.
For the CIP for that?
Yes, the first line.
So the total of that stuff.
I came up with 407
How'd you get 7?
because aren't we taking the? Oh, it's I don't know. Oh, I know. This is a different. I did a different thing. Sorry.
Yeah,
I took out. I was doing the total
Oh, yeah,
to come up with the 5.5. This is just for the CIP.
Yeah.
right.
I didn't do that number yet, but I hopefully trust it was done right.
Well, can we word it in a way that allows the town manager to make the appropriate adjustments?
Well, you do it pretty quick, it's pretty simple.
We can't change that referendum question, though. It's gonna be a certain,
Right, so
Right,
we're
yeah.
gonna, the raise is gonna be 415,000.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but
So-
the appropriate is what I'm confused with.
right.
If you're gonna,
Yeah.
Because it's to who, broken down.
So
Well,
deduct,
I mean,
I
essentially-
would deduct
no, so,
out
okay,
what's being
so-
carried
so-
forward for each of those
well, so
pieces.
essentially what you do is raise and appropriate for 415.
Uh-huh.
Because we've already appropriated from the prior years,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yes, I believe you're correct. So I'll change the 1.2 to 415.
Right.
Okay.
And then you're gonna have to do a proportional adjustment against the
The other
things
ones.
that come, you know,
Yep.
what's shown there in order to get to the 415.
Oops.
Oh my God, it's gonna be big numbers drop down.
Where on earth? Is now I'm lost on this stupid thing.
No what? No number there?
There must be. Is it that?
I do.
Yes.
And so to be clear, the goal is to make sure that everyone who had things in line that were to be paid for accomplishes that with both the rollover and
Right.
the little increase that's there.
Right.
Well, no, I shouldn't say little,
So
but increase.
So that, we're still saying to go, you know, that.
Get your stuff.
Still spending out the 1,389,773. We haven't taken anything,
Third line.
we haven't cut any projects.
Third line staying the same.
Yes.
So in the spirit of that, can I put on the April agenda to take the $135,623 of miscellaneous stuff that's no longer active and move that up
Into the carryover?
into the carry forward?
Yes.
Okay, I'll have that for I'll put that on the April agenda.
So that'll,
That'll stop us from picking away at that and getting rid of it, which is
Yeah.
what I would told
All right.
Brenda to do.
So on that referendum, she's gonna change the numbers to appropriate it accordingly. So a motion to approve Article 17 in the amount to raise and appropriate $415,000.
right.
And a motion to approve as written like that with the 415.
Second?
Second.
Bruce, you had a question?
A comment, we show a different amount than what's shown here in the CIP on the article. It shows 361,774 in our CIP spreadsheet. We had 294 even.
You guys took off 50,000.
Point of,
Yeah.
clarification. So I don't know if that needs to be reflected here.
Because it was
Well,
20.
Those figures are gonna get
Yeah.
readjusted to
Right.
balance.
Okay.
Okay.
To come to the 415.
Yeah.
But that was the
I just
25,000
didn't want
for
to
2
miss it and
years,
have it
right?
come out wrong in the
Yep.
end. so.
But we're not saying that anything that you had in the expend line there is taken out. That's still good.
Right. I just wanted the difference to be known so you guys didn't
So if you
say,
took 600 out of that.
have the wrong number in the end.
We're taking, that you want to reduce it, at 600.
What?
From this, which was 1,015,000.
What's that?
No, that's all right, because I'm working from this, so even if we say 415, that's right.
Oh, you're doing it from last year, from
So-
5.
Oh. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, it's still, yeah. I still took 600,000 out.
Okay.
All right, so it has been, it has not been seconded yet.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. No, it was
Yeah.
Oh, it
seconded.
has? Okay.
Further discussion? Yes.
Cliff Small, 84 Webbs Mills Road. Would you explain to me how you got to the 415, because I'm completely lost?
I did it in order to get to the 7,793,253 for the total.
I understand why,
Yeah.
but I don't understand how you got there. So that's going to end up with a final for moving stuff forward for 24, 25 of 2,812,000. Does that still stay constant?
Say that again?
You talking about the rollover, Cliff?
Well, no, I'm looking at that's proposed carry forward, I'm sorry, excuse me,
On the CIP.
on the CIP. So you're reducing the carry forward, is that what the,
Yes.
It will reduce.
All
the
three,
carry.
yeah, all three of those will get reduced except for proposed expenses.
Right.
So
Third line over will stay the same, the other three lines are gonna change.
Your carryover will change because we're putting less money into it.
okay, and I guess the fire department CIP doesn't reflect the ladder truck on here.
And that'll be a separate,
Yeah.
that'll be a separate item.
On the list.
All right, thank you.
Because then because Cliff, that still gets into the overall how we're gonna fund that anyway, so.
Right.
All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
Karen Lockwood, 139 Mountain Road. And like Cliff, I'm kind of confused as to where we're at. Are we looking at the reserve funds sheet, the CIP reserve fund sheets and what?
Yes.
Okay, and so column 3 for FY 25-26 proposed expenses, that's gonna stay the same, 1,389,
Yes.
773. Okay.
Correct.
So, what are the columns that are going to change? Budget addition?
The other
Yeah.
three.
Okay, and so what is that total gonna be?
415.
415. So we're cutting 800,000 out of that? Did I do my math right? Okay. And do we know where those cuts are gonna come from?
No, what'll happen is it'll end up.
I don't think it's
it'll
800
end up.
even.
It'll end up affecting what the carry forward is, so it's gonna affect, it may affect some shifting in or whatever, shifting in, shifting out of things as you look at it in some of the out years. Because you're still gonna have carry forward, so when you look at what your proposed expenditures are gonna be for 26, 27, you still have that carryover that you're gonna be working for, so what you're looking at is how, what things does that affect? And so you could end up, for example, if something was in there at full value, and we decide that we're gonna bond it or bond it instead, then that full amount wouldn't be in the CIP anymore anyway, it would be a lesser amount.
Okay, what I'm asking is in the budget addition, we're going from 1,256,74 down to 415.
Correct.
So on each line item, do we know where we're making the cuts under
You'd
the
have a
budget?
proportional, could be a proportional against each of those line items.
On Article 17, that's what we're giving her to do that proportions.
Okay,
It would just be a proportional against each of those lines.
That's if you take 800 out, that's at 456. So I don't know what the 415 is.
so
415, Jim.
the proposed addition minus the proposed expenses. Well, that doesn't make sense because the proposed addition is 415 and the expenses are 1.389.
Right, but you're sitting there already with.
But the total available.
Total
So you
available.
add columns 1 and 2, and then subtract column 3, the
Right.
proposed expenses, which will reduce the proposed carry forward.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
It takes a minute.
Yeah, because theoretically, we have 3.5 in the proposed carryover
Right.
to start with. So, and the proposed expenses this year were 1.3, so we have plenty of money sitting there to do this.
All right. So there's-
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded at the 415.
415 even?
Yeah. All those in favor? We lost Sam.
He's on
Motion
his
is carried.
He's on his calculator.
Item 18, to see if the town will vote to carry forward any existing fund balances in the CIP, the capital improvement program accounts, the health reimbursement account, HRA, and the employee compensation account.
Motion to approve Article 18 as written.
Second?
Discussion? This is the article that lets us carry that, Karen, this is the article that lets those funds carry forward. Without that, then they die.
So morbid.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Article 19, I'll be removing.
Okay.
I'm going to use it as a placeholder so we don't have to renumber everything. So if we did do the truck, that's probably where I'd put it.
So just so people understand, Article 19 originally is the article where we say to raise and appropriate the county tax. The fact is, it gives people the opinion that you can say no and you can't pay the county tax.
Right.
You don't have that. We'll have an informational article that says, here's what the county tax is, but because you cannot not approve it, it doesn't make sense to have it in there to say you could approve it or disapprove it, if that makes sense.
And we can't put an informational article on the warrant, so.
Well, we can have it in.
But we can have it in the addendum.
Yeah. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $80,000. Okay, so this is the.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So this is the provider agency article. So the article is written right now is see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $80,000 for provider agencies. $15,000 for Crescent Lake Watershed Association, $750 for Lake Region Chamber of Commerce, $67,000 for RTP van service, $10,000 for Thomas Pond Dam restoration, and $1,000 to be used by the town at the town manager's discretion.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve Article 20, but that's got to be $80,750.
Yeah, I believe he said 500,
Yeah, it was
didn't he?
$67,500. So it would be, the new number would be $80,750. Okay.
Cliff Small, 84 Webb's Mills.
Wait.
Why aren't those?
we
haven't had a second
Oh, I'm
yet.
sorry, I'm sorry.
It's been moved, it hasn't been seconded, so we're not.
I thought you were recognized, I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, now it's been moved and seconded, so discussion.
Why aren't those broken out into separate articles? As a standalone?
Because they're provider agencies. We've always put them all together.
No, not always. Not always. They used to be, each one used to be a standalone article.
And a good deal of the reason that we did combine them was when we went to voting on a ballot, because it was for convenience, very literally. And that's why administration used to have its own. It's now combined with a bunch of other departments. So that decision was made in COVID, and we've stayed with it.
I'm kind of with Cliff on this one as far as like, if they're small enough, I don't think it's that big a deal to keep them all lumped together, but I think
agree.
it would be nice to break this van one out to really see if the people want it or not. So that's
I conveniently have an article right above it that's empty.
there you go. Because that's 3/4 of that particular budget. It's new. There's a lot of, not red flags, but there's a lot of different aspects to it.
All right, so if we go back up to Article 19, then it would be to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $67,500 for the RTP. I wouldn't do van services. I would do micro van services, because so people know that there's two different things.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate, but what do we do with the second? Don't we have to?
Okay.
Well, we can't do that. We haven't.
So here's what you have to do.
We're still have to decline
Oh,
this if we don't
okay,
like it.
we'll
No,
decline it.
what you have to, what you can do is you can, because it's been moved and seconded, you could offer an amendment to remove the RTP van service from there and reduce that figure to whatever that figure, whatever the correct figure is.
Right.
Then we can go back and revisit Article 19, because we didn't visit it, and put that in there.
20.
13, all right, so I make an amendment to, for Article 20, 13,250, I believe it is.
And remove
Yes.
the RTP van. or
Yes, remove the
micro-
RTP van.
Is there a second?
1350, okay, yeah.
Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
It's been seconded. Okay, so what we're voting on
Is the amendment.
Is amendment first.
to accept the amendment. Then we'll turn around and vote the new figure. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the amendment? Okay. Now we can vote on the motion, which,
All right, so,
Would you like me to read what I've just put in here?
yep.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $67,500.
no, we're
No,
still
on
on
the other one,
Article
Article 20.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
13,000.
I thought, yes, I thought you had moved on already.
I make a motion that we,
Okay, go ahead.
Wait.
that we put in 13,250.
Hold on, if you want, read this one and use that number.
Okay.
That we recommend.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $13,250 for provider agencies as will be listed.
Yeah.
And you, motion to recommend, the select board recommends.
Yes.
Was there a second? Did you second that?
I will second that.
Okay. Everybody understand where we're at? All those in favor? Okay, now we can go to Article 19.
All right, so on that Article 19, then, we are going to put in there the RTP micro van service,
Microvans.
to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $67,500 for the RTP van services. I make a motion to recommend Article 19 as will be written.
It just got typed.
It just got typed.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second.
Give it to Sam.
Discussion.
I don't know on this one. I mean, I just think it's, we just got it a little while ago. You know me, I'm a big fan of sleeping on it. And researching and stuff like that, and we got a great presentation, and I think I understand it pretty well, as far as what it's going to be used for. I don't know, the need, I guess, or the community. I mean, I guess if we send it, the townspeople are actually gonna decide it and
Right.
vote, so it really doesn't matter. I'm just, for me to either recommend or not recommend, I'm still on the fence, so it's just hard for me to vote on that. That's all
So
I'm saying.
since we're in discussion on that, can I have Joe and Deb get up on that? Because they've done some research on how much it costs to do it in-house. And Joe just took a bite of something, so he's trying to swallow that really quick back there, too.
I still like to sleep on it, so I like the info, but
Yes, but this way where you've got an option that he did check in on
no, I
something.
like information.
Yeah, so
Sorry, Joe.
reach out, sorry.
Peanut butter.
Protein bar. Trying to get some calories in. Yeah, so when I reached out to Wyndham, a new van with the wheelchair accessibility, they paid $107,000 for that. So that's for, I guess now, listen to RTP, that's a 6-passenger, so that'd be a 15-passenger van. So if we're trying to be comparable, I'm sure it'd be a little bit cheaper, depending on
That was how much?
rig. 107,000. And then we looked at, Debbie actually researched a little bit more with Age-Friendly Wyndham about how they execute the program, and it's pretty involved. They have pretty much one full-time person on staff handling the call volume and trying to set up the rides and everything like that. So Debbie can speak a little bit better on the other type of transportations.
The 15-passenger, does that need special license?
CDL.
That one does not, no.
Okay.
So yeah, anything 15 passenger, 16 passengers over, then you need CDL.
Okay.
Yes, you'd have to have someone that takes phone calls of who wants a ride and that they put it into a sister ride, which is a computer program, and then the volunteers come on and accept the different rides, and they have to have it closed so that they can make the schedule on Friday for the following week. So it closes out people that, you know, want something at the end of the week, but then you need volunteers for that.
So Wyndham's way they do it is it needs to be scheduled the day, it needs to be scheduled in
It has
advance.
to be scheduled so that they can set up the schedule on Friday for the next week.
But he said when he was talking to us earlier that they can do it more on an on-call.
No, they're on text, they can text it.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
a straight up like an
I
Uber.
don't know if there's a 48-hour for the quick ride.
I'm not sure.
No, this guy said it was like an Uber. You can, as long as they're available, they can.
I've just been hearing from seniors.
Well, it's
that
also
the
part
ones
of
that
it.
use it
Sorry.
are telling me 48 hours.
They're using that program the guy was here earlier with?
Yeah, see, there was this thing that, you know, Jordan Bay can use it if you're so many miles from the Wyndham-Raymond border.
I wonder if the 48 hours is because they're in Raymond and they're cheating the system and using the Wyndham.
Well, I don't think they.
No, it's
There was
cheap.
one point I got a story that they didn't even know where Raymond was in relationship to Wyndham. They thought it was up by Naples.
I mean, we could tell them that and then
So,
boom,
but they
67,000 saved.
He also said it's through the DOT and that there was some funding from it from the DOT. So that could be a different setup than what we're talking about.
They actually, the Wyndham one is a grant that they did as a starter program, and also Gorham and Standish are still kind of on that too. Raymond would be the first one that would be doing it without any funding. It would be all town funded.
Can we get grants towards this if we look into it?
There's not any right now, but something I do want to keep in your mind, and
Mine are.
is
She has a different look for me.
all right. What do you want, Dennis?
Checkmate.
So Deb is putting herself at risk, her insurance at risk, her liability at risk by driving these people around to help people out. And we cannot continue doing that. We cannot, because what's happening is, I think it's great that she's trying to help, but what if she smashes her car? She will not have a vehicle, and she will not get reimbursed if it's not like under the rec program, or the provider agencies or whatever program it's supposed to be on. That is a big concern of mine, and if we're trying to grow this program, then that's something that would be the next step. And that's one of the issues we had with the bus, is people couldn't get down to the bus. And this gets you down there, it gets you Wyndham to do shopping, it gets you, around.
I have a question.
I'm gonna give Dennis a look, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd look the other way anyway. Wasn't there something also mentioned, it seemed to me I heard from someone that we sign up for this, but we can actually do it for a few months, and if it isn't working and no one's using it?
Correct.
How does that work? Because this is important for people to know, too.
He said to me that if it's not working out, that we can stop. We can go month to month.
It goes and it's prorated, or do we get a better deal by paying the full year?
No, it's 55, it's 5,500, 5,583, I think is what it is. But one of the things that Deb had suggested is give it a year. See how many people do use it, because you got to get that newness in on it too.
So we would have the Article 19, whatever, read for this to raise and appropriate the funds for the entire year, but yet we are paying out warrantly monthly to this service, and if we quit it after month 3, then it just sits there and it rolls over, or if we need it somewhere else, we're fine. So we're not locked in for the full
We can't
year.
roll it over somewhere else until,
no.
yeah.
Well,
But we
no, I
can
mean,
say
if you don't
up-
balance the budget, it's
Right,
in
at the
that,
end of the
and then
year.
you can roll it into
Essentially,
something
we
else.
go to
All right.
Yes.
And couldn't we say up
Fine.
to? Couldn't we just add the words up to 67? At least it gives a little bit of a...
No.
You think it's
'cause-
confusing?
No. I want them,
60,
yeah.
No, well,
Yeah.
yeah, if we do it, we do it. If we
Okay.
don't
For the
use
price
it,
that
we
we're
don't
using.
use it.
Yep, okay. I'm with you, though. The public gets to decide this.
Yeah. I have to vote whether I like it or not, and I was just not really.
I like the idea of separating it.
so it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I didn't even see.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Frank?
Got me spending money. Oh, man.
Frank McDermott, 2 McDermott Road. I'd suggest that sometime closer to the vote, that someone get Wyndham Eagle to write a story about this explaining exactly what it does, what it doesn't do, how people can use it, just so people, when they go to the polls, have a fairly good understanding what's there.
Well,
My concern is that if it goes the way it usually goes, 99% of the people who show up at the polls will have no idea what it's about.
I think we added those. I mean, we could do that as well, but I think we added the extra meetings for that purpose so that we can talk about these and get them out there. But I think more the merrier. I mean, if put it in the Eagles.
But I think you've got to get the publicity out there so people understand this. I think this is a no-brainer. I really think this is a no-brainer.
So having them interview type thing about guess what's new to Raymond, you know, or could be new to Raymond.
Ed Pierce would be very glad to do a large article on this.
Our camera, the guy here suggested a while back after
Bill
we're ending a
Blood.
meeting. Yeah, well, I don't want to throw him on the bus if he doesn't want to do it. So, but anyway, he said that he could come up, or anybody could come up with some material for this, and he could have small, short videos explaining each one of these articles that we could place online, so that people could go online, click the articles, hear the little summary of it, and explain what it actually means and entails, and then they could get a little more. Along with that, the meeting that we're going to have, the informational, and thrown in the paper. I mean, I think all those are great ideas.
And it's possible that RTP already has something like that.
Yeah.
For their own advertising.
I mean, ours is kind of article specific, but yes.
But I mean,
Or a
for the
link to their,
minivan,
a link to their service or something, but, sorry, that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay, moving right along. Article 21, see if the town will vote to appropriate the total sum of $2,221,180 from the estimated non-property tax revenues to reduce the property tax commitment, together with all categories of funds which may be available from the federal government and any other sources.
Is that the right number?
I believe so.
That has the 10 out.
Let me go back and double check. Seems like it was forever ago, yesterday when I did it. Yes, it is. If you look at your summary, the budget summary that you have, it's the FY26 total other revenue on the right-hand side of the
Right,
sheet.
221,
Here.
All right, so a motion to approve Article 21 as written.
Fine, got that line. Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to accept certain state funds and as provided by the Maine State Legislature during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and other funds provided by any other entities, including but not limited to municipal revenue sharing, local road assistance, emergency management assistance, snowmobile registration money, homestead exemptions, tree growth reimbursement, general assistance reimbursement, veterans exemption reimbursement, business equipment tax exemption reimbursement, state grants, or other funds.
A motion to approve Article 22 as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Article 23, see if the town will vote to authorize the use of town employees and/or town-owned equipment for independent contractors hired by the town for maintenance on private roads in special certain circumstances wherein the public interest.
Motion to approve Article 23 as written.
Second.
Discussion? This is that one that essentially allows, if the fire department has to get down a road, we can send the plow trucks to get down there even if it's a private road.
Yep, or a washout.
I think it was invoked during the ice storm, for instance.
It was invoked a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it essentially came from.
Oh, I mean, it was used then, yeah.
But I mean, it essentially came from the fact that, you know, in the event of a fire or an emergency or a rescue down in an area that's not cleared, the town can go and do that in that case as a one-time event.
Because at that point, we don't have time to call a special town meeting
No.
to have a vote.
Other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None? Motion is carried. Article 24. to see if the town will vote to appropriate from undesignated fund balance $642,568 for the employee benefit liability.
Motion to approve Article 24 as written.
Second.
Discussion?
This one will get, this is the one that's reducing
Yes.
after, it's gonna slowly come down and down and down after we get this other stuff.
Yes.
Essentially what this is, it was discovered that essentially we had an unfunded liability in there on unused benefits that would be required to be paid out if someone left.
Yep.
So from a strict accounting standpoint, you have to fund that liability. That figure will reduce
Quite a bit.
each year. So we're not raising, we're just, we're just appropriating from that. So as it's used, it will reduce. But it was discovered that we had this liability sitting there that was
Unfunded.
unappropriated. So,
Yeah, this is basically, the way you explained it really well, the other meeting, was it's not going to be on the tax. It's just a matter of acknowledging that that is in the unfunded or the surplus, whatever.
We're not
word you want
raising it.
We're not raising it, right.
She
It's just
said earlier
appropriate,
it's
as she said,
appropriate.
right. Yeah, that's just.
It just gives us the
clarifying.
right to spend it.
Right.
And we have no right to not spend it if it's
Right.
required. So we've had to spend it out even though we haven't had an appropriation in the budget before.
moved and seconded, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Next item is the ladder truck. Do we want to add a warrant article to do that? And do we want to do that as a lease or a bond?
Can I
We
ask,
just got a van, so I don't know.
can I ask, how many other towns around us have a ladder truck?
Probably most of them need it.
Wyndham Gray, Standish, Bridgeton, and Naples, yes, Naples. All have ladder trucks, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this question now. So one of the things you had mentioned at a previous meeting that said most of our services now are more towards the EMT because you only have so many people on. And we really rely heavily on that mutual aid because if you've got EMT people that are out, you don't have the staff here. Why, I guess, does every town have to have that ladder truck?
All right, so I don't want to get the things too intermingled. The bulk of every department's call volume is EMS. They're about 70%-ish. We're at 60-something. So you've got that, yes. We have limited staffing. Every department has limited staffing, and every department's in the 70 percentile range. So one of the big things I mentioned and talked about in the past is that if Wyndham is out, as they were the other day, 7 calls deep in the same, 5-minute period, we're in their town, everyone else is in their town, and you aren't going to get a ladder truck from anywhere over that way. So at the same time, Casco and Naples happen to be out on their own calls. So your ladder truck, if you're calling them, is also going to be very limited or slower to get that truck. One of the things that we need to, understand is that the system is overtaxed, without a doubt, that mutual aid, while a good answer and we'll still use it, it is not mutual aid of the past. So 15 years ago, you call mutual aid and get 20 people. I'm calling 10 to 15 towns into a fire, and I'm lucky if we get 30 people in total, and that includes ours. So what we need is, unfortunately, everything we do, we're combining trucks and we're combining functions so that we can do more, or a bigger bang for the buck, if you will, more with less. The heavy rescue and the mini pumper converted into a rescue pumper. So we get a truck that can also put the fire out in the car that we're cutting apart to get the people out of with one vehicle, and be able to take the ambulance with us. These are the things that we're doing now so that we have, again, that bigger bang for the buck, that better life-saving capability, the bigger safety for our own people. So we don't have the ladders sliding off icy roofs and things like that. Because one, we do need to save our people. We need to preserve them for the next call, without a doubt. So we need to provide a better safety margin, if you will. So this is why we look at this type of equipment. It's not a new piece of equipment. We have one. It's not worth it at this time to invest the kind of money that would be required to keep it on the road when it's already at the end of life. It's planned obsolescence, if you will. Not by my standard, but just by industry standards, like everything else nowadays, is 22 to 25 years. The truck is 22 years old. So we could sink $100,000 into it and maybe get a couple more years out of it. Maybe. But then you're going to have a truck worth $20,000 again, and you put $100,000 into it.
So, to also, I guess, maybe address the elephant in the room, is you have this great big ladder truck coming in. Where is it going to get serviced at? Because
well, yeah,
it cannot fit in our garage.
Right.
Our garage.
Right.
So, do you guys have the space down in your
well,
safety
for
building?
field service, yes. Most of it, depending on which vendor we went with, they have local vendors. One's in Brunswick, one's in Auburn. So half an hour away for either or. Full service, they can cover anything that you need to do in either one of those shops.
But we also have the mechanic that can do the basic stuff as
The
far as
basic
whatever.
stuff,
Yes.
yeah.
But they still have to be able to get under or whatever. So
And that-
again, do you guys have that space in?
Yeah.
Because they can't do it down here.
Right.
You guys have that space in there for a mechanic to work down
he
in
could-
public safety.
You could get underneath that truck
Public
at
Works.
public safety, yeah, definitely, for doing the basic stuff like that. Tire rotations, oil changes, and things like that, absolutely. Anything to do with the truck on that one requires, by manufacturer standards, an EVT shop, which is Brunswick, Auburn, or a mobile service center. So. And they're warranted for quite a while now.
Well, right.
Yeah.
But something we need to keep in mind, though, too, is because this stuff is not fitting in our garage,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to be able to utilize the mechanic that we have and stuff like that to be able to do that combined town stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking from experience, I would say that the ladder truck is the #1 resource a chief has in their town or city for public safety. Get them out of a building to avoid a backdraft, put a hole in the roof, or take out upstairs second-story windows.
Correct.
And fire personnel safety. By far, it's the #1. That's why everyone tries to have one, except towns who only have, small population and can't possibly do it. We're talking about replacing what we've already committed to with the public 20 years ago. So when you talk about safety, it's huge.
How long has this one been out? How long has this one been out of service?
Been out of service, when did we pull it? 3 months ago, completely out, but it was out before that. All right, 2 months completely out of service, just due to what it needed for work and its unsafe operation at that point. Before that, the last year and a half or so, it's been out the majority of the time because of different repairs that were required. And waiting on parts because it's almost an obsolete truck. They had to manufacture several of the parts, and a repair that should probably only have cost $6,000 on any other truck was over $10,000 in parts alone because of that.
And so what have we been doing for that year and a half? Mutual aid, or are we just not?
Yeah, we've been using our mutual aid, but it was in and out of service during that time. It wasn't totally down for that.
And you had 3 employees injured. When was the last time you had 3 people injured?
Yeah, we had 1 person injured off from the ladder itself. We overexerted a lot of folks and had some physical traumatic injuries at the fire in Evergreen because we were trying to do things that truck could have done, and we didn't have it in service. Our truck, that is. If we had, we could have made a huge difference down there. We know, we've discussed it with area chiefs, we know that other buildings would have been saved, vehicles, and people wouldn't have been hurt. So.
And we talked about the ISO ratings. We're just repeating these things, but basically it's an important piece of our public safety.
We achieved the Class 4 ISO in our commercial and hydrant districts, which makes a huge difference on commercial insurances. Your schools would also be included in that reduction of insurance premiums.
So we do have it, you're saying? Or we only have it if we get this?
ISO rating, we
Maintain
currently
it.
have it, but we got to maintain it because they calculate that on your
How often do they do it?
capabilities. We just had it done
Is it yearly or 5 years or?
5 years ago, and it's 10, 15-year period.
Okay.
But if you have a truck out of service, you really should be obligated, if they calculated it with it, to advise them of such. And, you know. Yeah. Right. Yeah. When we put in for grants, it's also something that they ask us, you know, what our capabilities are, et cetera.
Well, like
But the
van-
biggest thing is really our safety. It's the safety of our people. It's the safety of the people that we're charged with protecting.
And like the van, the public can decide it too when we really get right down to it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right. So what's going to happen with the old one?
So the old one isn't worth a whole lot, Rolf, and that, I think that's the important piece. I would say we ought to sell it for what it is worth, and if we can get 25 out of it, then let's get 25 out of it. Like with the combination purchase of the new rescue pumper and the sale of the 2 trucks that we're replacing, I guess I would recommend, if we could, to put that money back into equipment for that new vehicle, if you would. I think I mentioned it the last time, just to do the attack hose lines, there's 3 pre-connected hose lines on the rescue pumper. The prices that we just got a couple weeks ago was $5,000 just in those hoses. It's just gone crazy. That would have been less than $2,000 a couple years back. Everything's gone crazy.
And it's going to come with new tires on it, right?
That will come with brand new tires on it, yes.
And I only ask that facetiously. You know I'm asking that question.
Absolutely do.
Because of the new.
New standards, well, 7 years out, yes, correct.
And some trucks have even an extended warranty bumper to bumper for 10, 15, 20 years,
Yeah,
correct?
so what we're looking at too, yes, you can buy an extended bumper warranty. But the chassis and the rust and all that, because everything that we're looking at is galvanized hot dip now. They're doing that now on almost everything to prevent the rust. But they're also coating it, extending that warranty to the 15 years on the frames and bodies undersides. So, and 2 of my 25s, right. So.
What 2 are?
So I don't remember which trucks they were. Trucks running through your brain after you've looked.
Oh,
at
2 of the ones that you're looking to buy, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Rosenbauer and
Was it Ferrara? Ferrara.
And that's on the frame?
Yeah.
frame
body.
ladder, but pretty much bumper to bumper.
Yeah. One of them even galvanizes the ladder. So, great. No rust there.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion that we try to do a lease to buy deal.
I think it's in your best interest to look at the bond avenue. With a AAA rating, you guys would probably get
No.
it cheaper than we would.
What's the value of it?
1.6.
Yeah, one.
Our, even though we have the AAA bond rating, to self-bond at 1.2 would cost us the initiation fees and the setup charge on that would not make that. You know,
If you guys'
in that
truck was
case,
more expensive.
If you know,
That's just it. Even though that's a lot of money, it's still.
kind of that breakover is about $2 million. If you're less than $2 million, the cost to initiate the bond is not the best way to go. So you're better off looking either at the lease or going to the bond bank. But if we go to the bond bank, then you've limited yourself to just they only do 2 issues a year.
Correct.
And they've already done the spring issue. So now you're into the fall.
Right.
So if you look at the lease route, that is probably the most reasonable approach from a total dollar standpoint. If we had a bunch of stuff that we were doing and we were going to be up over the 2 million, then it would make sense to look at self-bonding.
As I was saying, I make a motion that we buy a new apparatus to replace our current ladder.
He already
The amount.
released one out there, so he's changing it without it being seconded.
No, he's still talking the lease.
Yeah,
No, he just said buy it.
No, I said lease. I meant lease. I'm still working off the lease.
Okay.
I'm just,
That's why I
when
knew
people
the
get
first-
interrupted, you kind of change your train of
Yeah,
thought,
first
so.
you did lease and then you switched,
Yes,
sorry.
I did switch. I'm correct. I'll correct it. Let me back up. I'd like to make a motion to do a lease option to buy and replace our current ladder with, I would say, the best warranty and availability of a stock truck. What that'll do is eliminate, that's what I say, up to 1.6?
Yeah.
Is that what, that's what?
Well, Mel's capturing it.
Up to 1.6?
Figure not to exceed 1.6.
Yeah,
The warrant article.
and hopefully better.
With payment terms of, with a
10-year.
10-year lease.
10.
Yep. Thank you.
Second.
Thanks, Sam.
Discussion.
That was affirmative.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed?
No.
Motion is
I
carried.
mean, sorry. Favor. Don't do anything yet.
Thank you.
I'm just going to do one thing out of order because he's
Yep.
sitting here.
No, that's okay. Yeah, sorry. But don't close that out. Okay, sorry.
Because of the structure of the meeting tonight, typically, we didn't have that set up for public comment, but because Ray has been sitting here patiently all night, I will let you get up. Understand that you're going to make a comment that we cannot react to because it's going to be considered public comment. Okay? Thank you.
So did I.
Another one of these. But that's okay. My name is Raymond Richardson. I live at 84 Tenny Hill. I've been here a couple times now regarding cultivation of cannabis. I hired an attorney just so I could settle my self. Did you all get the emails I sent you? So you can know that the ordinance that she was talking about is a standalone ordinance that doesn't need to go through the planning board. And I'm asking tonight that you consider that ordinance. The way she said it was, notably, this ordinance is not a zoning ordinance and therefore can be adopted as a standalone ordinance without review or hearing by the planning board. We ask that this ordinance be considered at the next select board meeting. Large-scale caregiver operations should be treated as any other business and regulated to prevent against the harms to health and property values that are being suffered by people like me and my neighbors. So I'm asking the town to consider those ordinances and also to consider the land use ordinance that she had mentioned in this letter to you folks, 300-9.2, which doesn't allow a business such as my neighbor's to be operated outside his premise without being connected to his property. That's in this letter that I gave to you as well. That's my only thing I got to say.
Thank you.
Don't close it.
Is she going home?
No.
Sneaking out the back way.
As I said, Ray, because it was done in public comment, we cannot comment on it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
So what does that mean?
We can look, it means we can look at that in an upcoming meeting and whatnot, but we can't, because it wasn't on the agenda, it's not,
Right,
not for a
right.
discussion item tonight.
Okay, well, she was the one that told me to come tonight.
I just wanted, because I know you'd sat here patiently all
Yeah.
night, so I wanted to give.
So where does that leave me now?
Hmm?
Where does that leave me now? Where does that leave me now?
That was for Dennis.
We'll have a discussion on it at the next select board meeting.
Okay. Which is when?
I told her.
Which is when?
Next is April.
April? All right. All right, thank you.
It is April 8th.
April 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to say a huge thank you to Sue Luck for coming in and taking in that town manager's position and keeping the town moving forward and dealing with all kinds of issues and stuff like that. And we appreciate you so much, and we are going to miss you. And I am saying we, so we love you, and we wish you good luck on your next adventure. That's what it is. So, yes. You should see me not spilling that on the way up here, too. And you came in right behind me.
Yes, I did. And it has been beyond a privilege. It's probably all I'm going to squeak out. Thank you.
Don't squeak.
Don't squeak.
You can still read telepathy, right?
Thank you. All right.
Your motion.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Can I vote on the adjourn?
Yeah.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.